Hey guys, thanks for joining us. Today I am with Dan Ushman from TrendSpider. Dan is one of the chief architects and co-founder of TrendSpider, and he is going to be talking to us today about a bunch of their features. The one that I'm insanely excited about is the backtester combined with the new trading bots that they've developing, and that's going to be amazing. So Dan, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no, thanks for being here and for having me on. Let me share my screen and can you let me know if you can see everything?
Yeah, you look good.
All right, cool. So, Jack asked me to come on here and kind of give a top-down demo of TrendSpider. So I'll walk you through the whole thing. There's a lot here, so I'll move kind of quick, and then I'll spend a whole bunch of time on trading bots kind of towards the end of it because it kind of naturally goes that way anyway. So let's start at the top. What you see is the main interface. I've got a bunch of sidebar widgets on. I'll show you how those work in a little bit, right? But the main thing you see in TrendSpider and most other platforms is the charting widget, which is the main part of your screen. And I like to tell people that you can obviously get charts anywhere, right? So the charts of themselves aren't what makes TrendSpider special. It's everything that's built on and around them that makes it such an interesting platform. So top left, symbol search. You can type the name of any symbol, any company finds it, pretty standard stuff. Under that, you have your drawing menu. You can actually create your own drawings. That's kind of unique to TrendSpider. I have a few that I created that I use a lot. So when you use something often, you can create it in TrendSpider and just save it. Obviously all the standard drawings too. And then along the top, you have the main toolbar, which is where a lot of the cool functions in the platform live. And then on the bottom or on the right side, you have your sidebar. And the sidebar is really, really important. And we'll touch on that a fair amount. So starting along the top, right, you have a bunch of buttons here that do different things. First one's called MTFA, stands for multi-time frame analysis. I'll get to that one in a little bit. And then you have auto fibs, auto trends, indicators, patterns, heat maps. These are all, for the most part, automations that are built into TrendSpider you can customize. For example, if you use Fibs in your analysis, you can turn on auto Fibs and you can have the system measure the most recent fully completed move based on a set of rules that you can customize. And on every chart you pull up, it's going to just do this for you, right? You don't have to do anything for it to measure fibs on your chart. It'll just do it automatically. You can double click on them and customize them, make them, change their colors, change their levels, whatever you want to do. You can also turn on auto trends. And this is automated trend line detection. And this gets kind of interesting. Hold on, let me switch the style to something a little looser. And what's cool about auto trends is it can pick up to 2,000 possible trend lines on a chart, right? So it'll look at the chart and say, based on the rules the users put in here, what could possibly exist somewhere on this chart, right? So you start with an unfiltered view. And then it filters it down, and you as the user can customize this, right? So you can like double click to lock things into place, right? And you can filter it down, right? And then you can hold shift and click on lines that you want to get rid of. Like there's a couple duplicate kind of looking lines here. And you can end up with a very quick analysis on a chart without having to do a whole lot of work yourself. I use it in reverse. I do my own trend line analysis, and then I usually will flip on auto trends with my own settings. I customize them to see if I missed anything, right? So that's definitely a use case that a lot of people do. And if you want to customize these, there's a whole bunch of different rules you can change. You can change how it works around gaps. You can change, if it draws from wicks to wicks or tops to or opens to closes, right? And you can also go in and customize the specific formulas that it uses to filter and detect lines. It gets pretty complex, but you can make this your own. I've seen users set this up so it only finds trend lines that have been touched by price once or twice or 2 or 3 times and never been violated, right? Meaning price has never broken through it. And the reason it can do that is because for each of the 2,000 possible lines that we can pick up on a chart, right, we assign a bunch of different variables. We actually analyze each line. So we know how many times the price has touched the line, bounced off it, broken through it, how many times the line has been part of a series of higher highs or lower lows, right? Like it calculates all of this for each line. So then you can just use simple math to rank and score them, right? And when you go to the most relevant unfiltered view, it'll only show the top 1% of lines based on the formulas that the user can define. So that's a really powerful thing that not a lot of people know about, but it's there and you can use it if you want to. And if you like something on the chart that auto trends detects, you can just double click on them to lock them in, turn auto trends off. They'll stay in the chart though, so you don't lose those locked annotations. And now you can add stuff like indicators to the chart. For example, we might want to add a simple moving average, right? Now, when you add an indicator to TrendSpider and use things like auto trends and auto fibs, this MTFA button comes into play. So when I push this, it's now going to add a second time period to my chart, right? You'll notice that I now have two different set of auto trends and two different set of auto fibs on my chart here. And I also have two different indicators. You can see that there's an orange one that's dashed and an orange one that's solid. But you'll notice I only have one simple moving average on my indicator list. The reason there's two is because I now have two time frames on my chart, right? I have my primary time frame, which is the solid lines, and my secondary time frame, which is the dashed lines. So I can make this weekly, and now I can have a daily and a weekly moving average on my chart, the same 20-period moving average. Right, and I can do this with trend line detection, with fibs, right? I can have fibs from a different time period, trend lines from a different time period. So it allows you to mix time frames together instead of having to flip between them all the time. I'm going to turn some stuff off and just show you some of the stuff you can do with this now that you have it on your chart. Right, the first thing you can do is you can create alerts. So let's say we want to have a monthly moving average on our chart along with our daily. Price is currently kind of bouncing around this monthly level. Let's say we want to know if on Monday price breaks back above it, right? All we have to do is right click on it, and we can now create an alert that works visually with the chart, right? So you can say, alert me on a breakthrough, right? You can define a buffer zone. You can say, alert me when price touches within this range. And you can do this on anything, not just an indicator. You can do it on trend lines. You can do it on fib levels, right? You can basically say, hey, let me know when price breaks above this level or comes close to this level and have a buffer zone. And you can trigger that off a different time period, right? Remember, it's a daily chart. The dashed lines are from the weekly time period, but this alert will fire when a 10-minute candle breaks through or touches this range around this level here. Once you create an alert, you can set it and forget it, so you can have it run for a while. And Jack, you know how you can set up automated orders with Signal Stack and trading bots?
Mm-hmm.
You can do that with this type of alert too. You just put the JSON payload in the note field, right?
Oh, that's cool.
So if you want to say like, hey, when price breaks above this level, buy 100 shares of Home Depot, you can totally set it up to do that. In this case, you configure your webhook in your account settings, the webhook address, and you put the payload in the note field, and it'll automatically know that this payload goes to this webhook and send it over to whatever you want to do with it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's kind of a hidden thing that not a lot of people know about. So that's MTFA, some of the automated analysis. I will touch on pattern recognition, right? Because if you happen to like trade candlestick patterns, right, this might come in handy. But you can say like, find every hammer in the chart. There's two, because there's two completely different definitions of a hammer. And then when you enable this, it'll highlight them on, ooh, hold on, I need to switch to the right type of chart. There we go. So when you enable this, it'll highlight them on the chart. It'll put a little blue box around your hammers. But what's cool is this works with MTFA, right? So you can say, okay, I want to find hammers from the weekly time period on my daily chart. And you can see that this is a hammer on the weekly time period, right? But these are the candles that make up that hammer on the daily time frame, right? So it's like X-ray vision. You can zoom out even more. These are the 65-minute candles that make up this weekly hammer.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
so
really
it's like, I call it time travel, but it's multi-time frame analysis when used with automated analysis and indicators is really, really cool. This works on lower indicators too. Like I can put my weekly RSI on the bottom of my 65-minute chart here, right? Not a lot of people know that you can do that, but this is a better way, in my opinion, to look at RSI and momentum oscillators on a higher time period than the one you're trading on right now. Because on the weekly time period, it is riding the top band here, right? Like that should tell you something. But that's MTFA. It's super powerful and it exists throughout the platform, right? There's a lot of different areas where we have multi-time frame functionality. Patterns, by the way, is about to get a big upgrade. It'll soon detect complex patterns like falling wedges, triangles. We're starting with triangles and wedges, but ultimately it'll detect head and shoulders, cups and handles, rounding bottoms, and all kinds of stuff like that. So you'll have some additional options in the pattern area here to do that with. I'm going to skip heat maps because I don't have time. right? I want to be respectful of everyone here and show you the cool stuff. But there is some really cool stuff in heat maps that you can use to identify support and resistance zones on a chart, right? And that's what it looks like there. Other data is a really cool area because there's a lot of stuff hidden here, right? This is where you can see dark pool and retail trading data and Wall Street bets data, short interest, right? Analyst estimates on your chart. I'm not going to go into it all because we just don't have time, but there's a lot of cool stuff built in here. I will show you Wall Street bets just because that's a cool thing to show, right? But like, let's take a look at GME, GameStop, and you can see exactly when it was getting popular in Wall Street bets, right? And if you flip retail trading percentage on, you can see that, you know, this symbol made up a large percentage of the total retail trading volume from retail trading accounts, but only for short periods of time, right? But this is like data that you'd otherwise have a tricky time getting and analyzing that you can just see on a chart correlated to price action in TrendSpider.
That's beautiful.
So I'm going to touch on the sidebar briefly, and then I'll go into scanning, and then I'm going to end on strategy tester and bots, because I think that's what you guys really care about the most here. But the sidebar is where a lot of really cool stuff lives, and it's hidden, and the design admittedly is not great because it hides stuff so people don't find some of these features. But if you click sidebar on the top and go to add remove widgets, right, and then you click on add widget here at the bottom, there's a wealth of capabilities built right in here, right? So I've added seasonality, analyst estimates, insider trades, and unusual options already. But if I didn't have those there, you know, I would have added them here. I'm going to walk you through some of these. Right, let's go to like Philip Morris or something. So first up is seasonality, right? Seasonality is exactly what the name implies. It's measuring the seasonal performance of a priced asset. We take it to kind of an extreme level in TrendSpider. So I'll start at the most simple view. This is 50 years of Philip Morris trading, right? 50 years since it IPO'd. And you can see here that the best month to own it is October, because 68% of the last 50 Octobers closed higher than they opened, right? It's a quick way to see that. On some symbols, you see some really crazy stuff. Like if you switch to Walt Disney and go back, you know, maybe not 50 years, maybe you go back like 10 years, I think, right? Like you can see some periods of time on the weekly view, when you slice this weekly, where you have like an 85% chance of having a green week, right? You know, I've seen this, if you filter it the last 10 years, right, it gets kind of crazier still, because you have multiple 85% chance probability of closing higher than it opened weeks in a given calendar year, going back like 13 years. I think if you go back 10 years, there's 100% one that like the 27th or 29th week of the year has closed higher than it opened 100% in the last 10. But it's a really cool thing because you can see this data and use this data, right, in your regular trading. What I want to impress on you guys, though, is it's not just price action that you can do this with, right? Like you can look at price action, but you can also look at momentum. You can look at volume. Like this is the first week of the year has the highest relative volume over the last 50 years, right? The first month, January. You can measure this by momentum, by RSI. Like what percentage of time or what percentage of each period has RSI been above 50? Right, and you can see it's generally not October, right? It gives you some info about the stock, and you can look at distance from a moving average. And this gets interesting on some other assets like Bitcoin. If you slice this by volume, you can see some really interesting trends. Like volume really dries up in October. It's the lowest period of our vol being above 1 out of the year, right? And it gets really kind of high in May and April. Right. But this is a way to slice this data and look at it. And one last thing about this that I just want to highlight, because people miss this a lot, is you can also filter, right? So you can select a filter here and you can type like 2020 and just remove 2020 from the results, or March 2008, right? And then if you just flip the filter on and off, you can see the difference with and without that piece of data being carved out of it.
That's pretty cool. So if there's an event that happens, you could take that out to see, you know, smooth it out some.
Yeah,
Nice.
like I like to remove March of 2020, right, out of pretty much everything I look at, right? Because it's such an outlier,
right?
That removing it like materially changes the March numbers, right? And it's not every March. That just happens to be like a very special event that happened that one time.
Yeah.
So that's on the seasonality widget. There's a bunch of other widgets too. Some traders like to look at unusual options flow, and a lot of people pay for third-party tools for this capability alone. We don't think that's right. That shouldn't be a separate tool. It should just be a feature in your charting platform. So it's available in all of our plans. There's no extra charges for unusual options flow in TrendSpider, but it's mostly the same data you can get at any other unusual options platform, right? Like cheddar flow, all of that stuff. It's the same data. And what you can see with this is the distribution of options bets. Let's pick something that's a little more controversial, like Tesla,
Nice.
right? So like on Tesla, right, you can see that most of the option bets are not too far out, right? So we can go up here and say, okay, let's filter expiry dates that are too far out. Let's look at bets that are like in the near future, right? So we can just slide that over and filter that. Then we can say, okay, I only want to see big bets, right? So let's say only bets that put at least 150 grand in premium paid, right?
Okay.
And now if you hover your mouse over these, you can get the details, right? This is a put trade. Someone paid $1.3 million in premium. It made up 1,600% of the open interest at that moment, right? And it was in puts at the $1,300 price point, right? The white line here is the current price. So, I mean, these are in the money right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Big time. Yeah.
You know, and you can see the same thing with calls. And then another way to look at this is as a balance measure, right? So instead of checking trades, you can check money at price at strike at the bottom. And here you can see at this strike price, what is the balance of calls to puts, right? You have 3 million in puts for 600 grand in calls. We define unusual trades as 20,000 or more dollars in premium paid that took place at the ask or the bid, right? So it's an aggressive trade with a lot of money involved in it. You can, of course, also see a straight list of all those trades here, right? And this will also tell you the type of trade, right? Sweep, there's block trades, there's a bunch of different types that are picked up. Block trades come up as trades, sweeps come up as sweeps. But that's built right into TrendSpider, and very soon this will be scannable data. You can't scan with unusual options right now, but that's coming.
Cool. That's been great.
Yep. Next sidebar widget is insider trades. This one is really cool because of how it gets the data. It actually goes to the SEC and reads the filings. So if you click on these, it takes you straight to the SEC filing. You can say, hey, Elon Musk sold $1 billion of shares. What did that look like? And you can go here and see the actual trades and the filing that he's required to put in. That's where the data comes from. It comes straight out of Edgar. And also, if you click on someone's name in this list, it'll filter it for just them. So here we can see just Elon Musk's trades.
Wow.
Right? And you can also at the top select like only directors, only officers, right? Like this is just people with a board seat, right? So it gives you a lot of control in a way to just see the insider data right on your screen in front of you very easily. We also have analyst estimates in the sidebar, and this one works with one of these other data things, right? You can check analyst estimates here and add it to your chart. Let me reset it because I was doing something with it. And this lets you see all the analyst actions about the stock, right? And you can see them on your price chart like volume bars. Right? So each of these represents an analyst recommendation to buy or sell this particular security. And what this lets you do, let me flip my scale to log, right? This lets you eyeball which analysts are terrible, which ones are good, right? Because you can say, oh, look, a major bottom in Tesla, right? January of 2019. Who said sell at the bottom? Who said buy at the bottom, right? Citibank said sell. Baird said buy. Who else said sell? Barclays said sell, right? You can see UBS, Credit Suisse, all these guys are saying sell. So what can you do with this? Well, you can go in the sidebar here and you can click on Citibank. You can go to the chart legend. You can click the little 3 dots next to analyst estimates and switch this to display only favorites. And now we can say, how bad is Citibank, right? Well, they're terrible. I'm cheating because I've done this on Tesla Citi a million times. They're my favorite example. But you can clearly see that every time Citi says sell, you should just buy. Right. Here they said sell in the middle of this alley. Here they said mark the next bottom with another sell recommendation. Here they said sell during a quick consolidation, right? Like at any of these points, had you listened to them, you would have missed out on upside. Right. Here they were a little right. Here they were a little right. And here they're saying sell again. Right. So either they've gotten a new analyst and they're getting better at this, or we're about to have another monster rally in Tesla. Right.
Wow.
And you can look for correlations too. Like I'm cheating again because I've done this on this one before, but I know Piper Sandler and Citi are a good combination. When Piper says buy and Citi says sell, taken together, that seems to be a pretty reliable signal, right? Like you see that a lot, right? So this lets you use analysts in a way that is consumable, easy to understand for a technical trader. Because you're doing the same thing, you're just correlating it to price action.
Very cool.
So, yeah, we're big fans of this. This is, again, something that if you want to do this without TrendSpider, you got to pay for tip ranks. You got to make your, like, put markings on your own charts, right? It's not nearly as nice. And it shouldn't be a separate product. It should just be part of your trading package.
I like how you, I'm sorry. I like how you put favorites in there too, because like you said, there may be 3 or 4 that you really want to follow, and you could just follow those, which is nice too.
That's how you can isolate them on a chart and see favorites are the ones you click on. So you can say, you know, I only want to see the ones I clicked on, but you can filter this by just upgrades, just changes. Like I pay attention to changes much more than new initiations. Because if someone was bullish, and then all of a sudden they're bearish, right? I think that's an important thing to notice. But I'm a huge fan of analyst estimates in here. So one more sidebar widget, guys. I know I'm probably boring you guys, but I do want to show, I'm gonna actually add trading bots because we're going to go there next. But I do want to show you the smart checklist. I'll remove my watch list for now. The smart checklist is super powerful and super like nobody knows about it. It's because it's buried in that menu for the sidebar. And that's a problem that we're going to fix eventually. But for now, I like showing it to people because it's this huge, huge quality of life and time saver. For example, this is a checklist I made, right? And this checklist looks for full time frame continuity on 6 time frames: 5 minute, 15, 30, 65 daily, weekly, monthly, right? Full time frame being defined as currently trading above open, right? On all these time frames. That's something I look for when I'm trying to enter a short-term trade, you know, a long trade. I also want to know if it's going to have earnings coming up in the next 10 days. I swing, so I don't want to know like tomorrow. I want to know in the next 10 days, are we going to have to deal with earnings? Are we going to have to deal with an X dividend date? Has there been recent news about this name, right? And has there been a recent analyst action of any kind? Then I want to know if there's an inside or outside bar or a hammer forming on the daily time frame. And then I want to know if some moving averages are in the right order. Instead of checking all this stuff by hand, I just configure it here. I click choose script and I check current candle. And now every symbol I go to, it's going to just check all these conditions for me, right?
Okay.
So I don't have to go through 5 different time frames and see what the chart looks like. I don't even need to have those charts open. I don't need to check the news, right? Damn, Palantir had a bad day, right? I don't have to check anything. Like it just checks it all for me. And then I say, oh, there's been news. Let's look at the news, right? Oh, there's been an analyst. What's the analyst said? You know, like I don't have to deal with any of the other nuance of flipping through charts and checking a bunch of conditions because they're the same every time.
Right.
So you can just set it up once and then have the system do it for you. It's a
put up Oxy. Let's see what that looks like. I had a great day today. I just like to see the way that looks on that.
Yeah, I heard Warren Buffett bought a bunch of Oxy. Yep. So check it out. Full time frame continuity, right? Every one of these time frames is trading above open. There's been recent news, and you have the if you put your mouse over the eye, you'll get the full view. You have the 100 SMA is above the 200, but the 50 not yet.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's. I mean, imagine checking all of that stuff by hand. Right? That's a lot. But if you set it up as a smart checklist, you don't have to do it. And you can have multiple smart checklists open at once. You don't have to have just one. You have a click current candle, which we're going to get into this option, this idea of current candle in the scanner in a minute. But current candle tells it to treat the current open candle as if it were closed. So if you're looking at stuff during the day, intraday, current candle being checked makes a big difference. If it's checked, then it uses the conditions from right now. And if it's not checked, it looks at the most recent close candle for all its conditions.
Okay.
Right. And then extended hours obviously incorporates extended hours data into computation of everything. Right. That includes price and time. So you got control over that. And then the eye icon gives you a full view, and you can actually copy and paste this if you want to copy it to someone else. That's by design. Right. So if you want to say, hey, here's my checklist for Oxy, right? You know, you just quickly communicate everything that you just had the system check for you. So big fan of that. I think everybody should have at least one smart checklist at all times. There's a couple examples in here. Like there's one that's called Dan's example or Dan's personal. This is based on my personal checklist. So if you want to see how I set it up, you can pull that up. And we plan to release a lot more public examples of this, right? Because I think it's a feature that is really underappreciated. Okay, 2 more things and then I'll shut up. Market scan, or 3 more things. Forgive me.
I love this. It's great.
Market scanning is like Google for charts. If you can describe a scenario to a smart checklist, or to me, or to a friend, you can describe it to TrendSpider here. There's also a ton of pre-made scans, right? So some of these are really complex. Like this one's designed to look for RSI divergence, right? This one's a really simple one that looks for a 6-candle formation where it's kind of forming a roll or a cup, right? So you can set these up to do whatever. But the point I'm getting across is you can then just have it search the market for you, right? These don't have to be just technical conditions. Like this is a technical condition, but let's say we also only want it if it's recently had earnings, in the last 10 days, right? And I'm going to show you this just so you can see how fancy you can get. And there's been a recent news article that mentions the FDA or the CIA, right? Nice. And there's this technical pattern forming. And then you might want to say, and also it was not popular on Wall Street bets in the last 30 days, right? So you can say none of the following top mentioned Wall Street bets 30 days. Like this is also a scan you could run. I don't think we're going to find anything, but maybe we will. The point is you can make this system search the market for like a crazy incomprehensible number of permutations of conditions, right? It's extremely flexible, and you can get fancy with them, right? This, what you see here in this middle group, this is called sequencing, where you can look at candles in a particular order, but you can also say by a percentage, right? So like this candle is less than this candle by 1%, right? So you can build out really complex conditions. And in the same way you can build scans and smart checklists, you can also test strategies, right? So this is where you can get into trading bots. Let me pick an example strategy. I'm just trying to find one that actually makes some sense. Here we go. Strategy 1.
Good place to start.
Yeah, hold on. Strategy 1. There we go. Yeah. So this is a real strategy that I ran a real bot with for beginning of this year, and we were beta testing this capability. It did okay. I'm still running its conditions on a few other symbols right now. But here's what you can do with this, right? Like let's pick a symbol. Like I'll just stay on the one we're on. We're on CCRN. I don't know how much history there is. And we can run the test, right? So we're basically saying like, hey, go back in time, look 10,000 candles and show me what would have happened if I bought when these conditions are true and I sold when these conditions are true, right? So you can configure this, and these can be anything you want, just like creating a scanner, just like creating a smart checklist. You just add conditions, right?
Right.
Then you can see on the chart when you would have bought and sold with arrows. And you can see in the performance chart here how it would have performed overall. So like I can pull up this strategy was designed for leverage ETFs. I can pull up SPXL, one of them that this was built on. You can see why I like this strategy for leverage ETFs. It avoids big drawdowns. So when you're looking at the performance here, right? First, blue is the cumulative performance of your buy and sell strategy. White is the buy and hold performance. If you bought it at the beginning of strategy, you never sold it, right? And then you can also see along the buy and hold when you were in a trade and when you were out, right? Green is when you made money. Red is when you lost money. White is when you were on the sidelines. Right. So you can see this particular strategy, this Don channel strategy, does what it was designed to do, which is avoid big crashes. Right. And it does that fairly well. It gets a little chopped up sometimes, but it avoids these huge crashes. Right. It does it over and over again. Right. Like whenever you have price really tanking, it gets out and stays out. Right. It's not perfect, but it works really well on leverage ETFs. You can see the statistics on it at the bottom here. You can plot the drawdown, the max drawdown, right? So you can see at worst, you're 36% off highs, right? In this strategy. That's been very recent, right? It gives you a way to see that. On the other chart, it gives you a way to see how all the trades in the strategy performed kind of as a whole. So what this means is left axis is positions open. Bottom axis is candles since open. So 0 here. And the trade that lasted the longest was 300 candles at the end. And the right axis is change percent. This stair step is how many positions were open. So you can see that 30 candles in to this trade or this strategy, only 67 positions made it that far. You started with 109. So almost half your positions are gone, 36 candles in. That lets you see the return at that stage here. right? And you can also see the real return were very few trades, right? Like 4 positions made it 180 candles, right? But those 4 tended to do really well. The dotted line in the background here is a random control. This is random buying and selling. So if your strategy can't beat that line, right, you shouldn't be trading it at all. Like, it has no edge whatsoever, right? But this lets you analyze what's happening on the internals, right? And then if it ends on an open position, let's see if I can find one where it would still be in a position. It might be tough with this particular strategy. But if it does end on an open position, it'll actually take this price behavior explorer and plot it on the chart at entry. So you can see how the trade is performing relative to the sum of all the past trades. It makes it very easy to say, hey, it's not going right, I should get out, right?
Gotcha.
So if you like a strategy you developed here, what you can do from here is 2 things. One is you can just say, alert me next time this happens. This will take your entry or exit condition and create a multi-factor alert, one-time alert. And here, Jack, you can also put JSON code. So if you want to send an order and you have a webhook configured, you can put it in the note field here as well.
Cool.
Or you can click launch as trading bot. And when you launch as a trading bot, this is brand new. Jack's just been playing with it. I've just been playing with it a lot. But this actually lets you take this strategy you just back tested and play it forward with real market data. And then you can tell it what to do when the entry and exit conditions happen. It can do nothing but put arrows on your chart. It can email you, or it can text you, or it can send a webhook to something else where it can route an order to a broker, like the Signal Stack router that we're launching does that. But you can also connect it to Discord and have it post to a Discord channel. You can connect it to Twitter and have it post to Twitter. There's a million things you can do with this, and you can have it automatically happen in the background while the bot is running, whatever you want it to be, right? Hands off. And unlike alerts, bots never expire, and they're position aware, meaning they know if they're long or short something at that moment, right? Because the strategy is running in the background. So it's never going to trigger multiple entries in a row, right? It'll trigger an entry and then it'll look for the exit. It'll trigger the exit, and it'll wait for the entry. So it's, and it's also built to be very robust and secure. And I mean like stable, right? It's not going to fail on you. The server's not going to crash. Like, there's redundancy built in there, and there's ability to have it give you verbose notifications, which is basically a notification every time it checks the market, even if it decides to do nothing, right? Or simple error reports. And you can configure what to do if something goes wrong. Like, let's say one of your webhook fails, you can tell it to retry it a bunch of times. If it was an entry webhook that failed on retry, you can tell it to notify you and assume you manually entered, or notify you and stop the bot. Similarly, you can tell it what to do if you start the bot and it should already be in a position, like that backtest would have entered already. Should it jump in right now, or should it wait for the next entry signal to come in? So you have a lot of control over this, a lot of power. And this goes with the Signal Stack product, which is currently in beta. We're letting people in right now, right? But this is an order router that can take a signal for TrendSpider or TradingView, anything that can send a webhook alert, right? And then transliterate that into an order ticket at a broker or crypto exchange of your choice, right? There's other order routers out there. You don't have to use the Signal Stack one with this. It'll work with Alertatron for crypto if that's what you prefer to use. But the point is, you can now build bots without being a programmer, right? You can develop strategies without writing any code, or you can test them and with the test and determine, if they're good or not, if they're worth your time testing forward. And you can gradually escalate what it does. Like, initially, you might just run a bot, kind of like my TQQQ bot here, right? All this bot does is put arrows on the chart. It's not actually trading right now, right? It's not set up to place trades, but I'm just seeing what would happen, when it would enter, when it would exit. When I'm ready for it to trade, I just edit the bot and toss a webhook address into it. And then it'll start sending signals to my broker through Signal Stack automatically. So
That's amazing.
a lot. I'm going to shut up now. If any questions, or if you want me to touch on anything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be honest. I've been playing with the backtester and creating the bots, and it's just been, I mean, it's been just completely awesome. I mean, to be able to create that and have and I have zero abilities to create bots, but literally it's one button, press it, and it's basically doing all the work for you to create that bot. It's been really fantastic, Dan. I can't, kudos to you and the team.
Thank you. It's
awesome.
going to get a lot better very soon, because we're adding like right now for take profit and trailing stop and stop loss conditions, it'll still wait for the candle to close. right? Which can exasperate your losses. That will become optional. You'll be able to say, wait for the candle to close, or immediately upon this happening, get out immediately. So we'll give you a lot more control over that. And then, you know, we plan to make it so you can share strategies, right, with each other. So if you want, like, you can share a scanner today, right, give you the ability to share a strategy so that if you find something you like, somebody else can, you know, that you let use it can also use it if you choose to, without recreating all your conditions one by one. But you know, all that stuff's in the future. There's a lot of updates coming to TrendSpider. Like, we're always putting out new stuff. But that one's pretty high on the list. The next big updates, Jex, just so you know, that are coming out, multi-symbol view is coming, right? The ability to see multiple symbols on one screen, right? That's kind of a big thing that a lot of people have asked us for a long time. Also, real-time futures data is coming. Hopefully early September, like September 1st is the target date. But that is real-time futures from the CME, direct from the source, super high quality data. And you'll be able to run trading bots with futures data. We got granted a bunch of special rights with our futures data contract. They wanted to get it in the hands of our users. So you don't actually have to have an active futures trading account to get futures data in TrendSpider, right? Like, you can use futures data to trigger equity trades if you choose to. Which I think is a really cool use case. Because when I was running my bot, just like TQQ and SPXL bot, I was actually running the conditions on SPY and QQQ, right? But the trade signal had a different symbol and it had the leverage ETF to give me kind of that leverage in there, right? So you can do stuff like that, and you'll be able to do that with futures data, right? Like, trigger my SPY options trade with the ES futures contract real-time data feed.
Very cool.
You know, and then additionally, there's a browser extension coming out that lets you pop up your TrendSpider charts on any symbol you come across on the web. I've posted a few times about that. That is an active beta. And then finally, custom scripting. And custom scripting is a big deal because that's one thing that's really missing. And we're going to do a little different than everyone else has. Any custom script in TrendSpider will work in the scanner, will work in the backtester, and will work with trading bots. Right. So you'll be able to have, if you want, have someone build an indicator that takes your whole strategy into it and then back test it with a strategy tester and then turn it into a bot. Right. You know, and then sell the indicator to others if you choose to. But lots of big stuff coming. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely amazing. You know, I found with the bots, and tell me if you found this too, that my best results have been with either indexes or leverage indexes for a long holding type of bot, because they tend to always go up, whereas you get so much more volatility in if you're trying to trade, you know, an individual name. Do you find that to be the case for you too?
Yeah, so I've built this Keltner strategy, here specifically for leverage ETFs, because when they move, they tend to move a little further, and that gives you you know, a better chance of capturing a big move. Because like, it is a very simple strategy. I haven't found an individual stock that this type of approach has worked on. But there's other strategies that do work on individual stocks, right? Like, it depends on what your poison is, because there are certain simple moving average cross strategies. Like, I've seen a 5 and a 10, right, be super profitable on some individual stocks on low time frames, like 15-minute charts, right? But it's because it's kind of curve fit to that asset at that period of time. Like, that's the character of the stock for the intermediate to term future. It may change down the road. A lot of good bot developers that I know, they have a lot of different strategies they run. They curve fit them to the bot. They run it while they work. And when it stops working, they stop the strategy and start a new one. They're not trying to build like a generalized strategy that works always on every symbol, because that's super, super hard.
Right.
But there are things you can do that like have a pretty high chance of working. This one in particular, like, it does tend to at least not lose a ton of money, right? All it's doing is it's using 2 different pairs of Donchian channels, right? So it's using a 3 and a 13. And it's saying when the low of the short one, the fast one, is higher than the low of the low one, that means the prices are not riding the lows, right? That's first condition. Then you need the top ones to match. That means prices are riding the highs. And this is an old strategy called a Donchian channel crawl, right? Like, it's an old floor trader strategy. It's like 50 years old, right? That's all I did was implement it with two Donchians, right? And then also I put one condition in that's like, only enter if the low is greater than the previous day's high, right?
Okay.
That's why it didn't buy earlier. It waited for it to kind of gap up.
Right.
But like what's cool about this is I can just experiment with it and say, hey, I wonder what happens if I just delete these. Run. Right. Don't like it, I don't save it, whatever. Right.
I've done a million of those, right? Let me see, let's try this, do this. And then you delete something, then you're like, nope, don't like it, don't save it.
It actually performed better in this case.
Right?
Like I just outperformed my old strategy by taking that out.
Right.
So you never know. And
it's funny you do that because when I was playing with it, I would build, like, I'll call it more a lot of different criteria, and then actually, just like what you just did, as I started removing criteria, performance increased. Yeah.
And then here's something that you probably didn't maybe haven't noticed, right? When you launch this as a bot, right, it will actually clone that strategy into a read-only strategy. So I have a bot running on strategy 1 here, but this is a clone of it. I cannot modify this. Right. Okay. So it gives you an automated version. Like if you go back and edit your strategy, right? The bots you have running on it aren't going to just magically change, right? Like it saves it in a period of time. And it's also part of the background sanity check, because before each signal that the bot executes, it actually runs the back test, and it runs it from the date you started the bot, right? And before that, like 6 months before that, it does that on purpose, right? Because if there was a bad tick in the past that threw off your results and made your bot look worse or better than it is, and that gets corrected by the exchange in the data feed, your strategy is no longer sane. It'll stop the bot and let you know.
Okay, that's great. Because that happens sometimes, right? The bad tick shows up.
Yeah, and your back test might look different without it, right? Because your indicators are calculated off data that includes a bad tick, and that happens a lot more than people think. Exchanges are kind of the most notorious at what we call repainting, right? Going back and changing the past, right? And like if you know how market data works, like when someone says a tick chart, right? Like a tick isn't like each trade. Each tick might modify a previous tick. There's like 68 different types of ticks. So it might say like, hey, ignore the tick that happened 36 ticks before this tick, right? That's what a tick-based data feed really is. It's like a constant stream of changes. Some of those can morph the past.
Wow.
Right? They're not all like, hey, a new trade took place at this price, right? Some of them are like an old trade was reported incorrectly.
Wow. And so one nice thing too is that you can actually back test it, a short time period, like 2,000 candles, or all the way up to 10,000 candles, and really get listen, if it backtests 10,000 candles and it works out, you're pretty sure that it's going to work out for you
in the long run. But I actually tell people, like, okay, so best practices are to backtest it on both, because notice this strategy super outperforms in the long run, right? But watch what happens if I run it on like just 2,000 candles. Right now, it's not as good of an underperformer, and it has a bigger drawdown. Right, like the character of stuff will change, and the point in which you started trading affects all the future trades. Right, so I always say like backtest it at a whole bunch of time frames. Very soon, we're adding the ability for you to do what's called an exclusion. So if you say backtest against the last 5,000 candles, but ignore 1,000 of them between these two numbers. Right. That's a strategy that is used to avoid curve fitting in algorithm development. And we'll also give you the ability to define a specific date range. So you can say like, hey, what would have happened if I traded this strategy starting on the very first day of the COVID crash, right?
Oh, that's cool. I love that, because so you can actually see, okay, I want to see on the worst days, just the worst days, how does it do? Or the best.
Another way you can do that is to use the reverse ETFs, like SQQQ is a leverage ultra short ETF. And if you can build a strategy that doesn't trade much here, like this one right now, in a short time frame, 30-minute, this actually seems to do well. It makes money while this thing goes down. It's losing 66% of its trades, but when it wins a lot more than when it loses. Right. And this is actually a great example of that price behavior chart, because this is the same chart. It starts at the entry, so you can see, like, is this performing along what it would have in the past and an overall average of all the past trades. Here's where it gets hairy, though. If you're on properties, well, why can't I get to that? For some reason. Okay, my mouse is not letting me click on it, but you can if you go back to this price behavior chart and you add the min max. Oh, there we go. they changed how that works. You can see it's actually quite a bit of a range, right, that you have
Right.
here. Like this is the total volatility. This colored one is the 25th and 75th percentile, and then the lines are the mean and the median, right? But you can see that there's quite a bit of volatility in this asset, but on average, 25 to 75th percentile tends to do well, right? And you can see we're kind of riding along what we expect it to do, right? Right. In the future, we plan to make this an exit criteria. So you'll be able to say, like, after 10 candles have passed, if we're not above it, get out, right? And that can be like machine learning for dummies. So
yeah.
Last thing with bots, and then I will shut up. I forgot to show you the sidebar widget for them. Here you can see their status, right? So if you click the little eye, it'll give you like a copy and pastable blurb that shows you the last 5 signals the bot received. Last time it checked the market, its current status, bot's active, but it's not in a position. And you can also clone these, right? So you can just press clone, copy it to a new symbol. It'll copy everything for you. And you can obviously stop and edit them too. So if you want to edit them and change what they're doing, you can do that as well.
Very cool. Now, can you restart? Once you stop it, can you restart them? Or do you have to?
Sorry?
Once you stop it, can you restart a bot?
No, but you can clone and restart it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. So you would stop it and then you would just clone a new one.
Clone it. Gotcha. There you go. Perfect. That's amazing. I mean, seriously. I mean, I really do think that the bots are a game changer. And it's amazing that we're able to so easily implement them and on TrendSpider. Fantastic. I'm a huge fan. I ran one for a few weeks, and it tracked very, very close to the backtester. I was actually really, really happy with that. And then I want to change my time frame, so I just started a new one on a daily time frame, and we'll see what happens. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I play with these constantly. I really enjoy them. So I hope you guys have fun with them. With Signal Stack, you can take them to the next level when you find a strategy that you like. You can really easily hook it into a broker. I would suggest start small, like single share trades automatically. That's what I was doing for 3 months, like just trade a single share of SPXL back and forth. But like once you get comfortable with it, it's the coolest feeling in the world. Because like, dude, imagine like this, like as a trader, right? Oftentimes I will spot a good opportunity, right? And I'll create alerts on it, right? But then when the alert goes off, I just happen to be driving, right? Or I just happen to be at like a PTA meeting with my kid's teacher, a parent teacher meeting or something, right? Where like, or in a business call or on a demo like this, right? Like where I can't just drop everything and place a trade. So I just set a reminder for myself and like, look at a text message afterwards and my chances moved. Then I have the choice of chasing it, right? Or waiting for a pullback or sitting on the sidelines. And it kind of sucks, right? By using this, you can let the market come to you. And like, I remember the first time it happened, I was driving to the airport to pick somebody up, right? And I got a TrendSpider text message that I knew was hooked up to a Signal Stack alert. Right. And then I got the message from TD Ameritrade saying, hey, your order was filled. And I was like, that's cool. I didn't even take my eyes off the road. Right.
That's awesome.
And also feels good, right.
And it takes the emotion out of it, because maybe there's a gap up and the strategy says you're going to buy that gap up. But then you're like, oh, am I chasing? Is this wrong? I'll wait. But it doesn't. It just executes. It executes the plan emotionless. And I think that's the best part, right? You don't have to fight yourself to make that entry.
Absolutely. It's takes it, as they say, plan to trade to plan. It lets retail people do that without being your own worst enemy. Because if you really think like the guys at Peak 6 Investments and Citadel are feverishly day trading options, staring at a chart, no, they're automating things. They just happen to have a team of programmers to write code for them.
Right.
So
absolutely. Yeah, that's really, really cool. It's amazing what you guys have packed in TrendSpider. I mean, just going through all those, like you said, sometimes you forget all the things that it can do.
You do. I find things in there that I didn't even realize were there a lot. It's weird.
I'm sure. When how old is TrendSpider? When did you guys start it? What year?
So we started in 2016 with the idea. We wrote our MVP in late 2017. It was called Chart Calculator at the time.
Okay.
And then we launched as a product in March of 2018. So we just turned 4.
Wow. You
Um,
guys come so far. Holy cow. This is
I
amazing.
appreciate it. It was such a crappy product in the beginning. Like, I freely admit that. Like, you couldn't even draw in the charts. It didn't have watch lists, right? Like, there were no alerts. All it did was automatic trend line detection. But it blew my mind because we made it a free beta, like try chart calculator, right? And like within a week, like 2,500 people signed up.
Oh, cool.
Right, it was like wild. And it was a crappy product, but it showed me that there was I wasn't the only person looking for ways to automate bits of trading. Because like initially it wasn't meant to be a product. Like initially it was just meant to be for me and my partner Russ to have a cool tool to automate our own trading. But we realized pretty quick that if we wanted to make this truly good, we needed a lot of users, because the feedback from users is part of what makes it useful.
Right.
Like the ideas, a lot of ideas come from a customer saying, hey, I wish I could do that. And we're like, that's a good idea. Let's see if we can do it. So it's been a journey. And we talk to investors and stuff sometimes, right? And like we always tell them, like, it's the beginning. Like, it took 4 years to build the product. Right. Like, yeah, it was available on the market, but we haven't even started promoting it and letting people know about it. Cause like not a lot of people know about TrendSpider. We only have like 13,000 users. Right. But it also took a long time to build the product. And now the product is finally at the point where we can say it's done. Like, almost everything we wanted to do when we first set out is going to be done this year. Most of it is already done. Now that we can finally say that, all right, it's time to kind of spread the word.
Yeah, no, and it's a nice clean look to it also, which I really like. You know what I'm saying? There's not like yeah, it's very, very much so. It's fantastic. Congratulations again to you and the entire crew there. Yeah, absolutely amazing. And it's funny, I like to keep my charts very clean looking, right? So I don't use like, a ton of fibs or anything like that. I use trend lines. I use volume and moving averages, and it really some of the ways that you guys have, like even the moving averages from the there's cloud and different things like that. I really appreciate. It's good stuff.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
It's always interesting when you use your own product a lot. You end up adding a lot of things that people would want in there.
Yeah.
I know as a fact, some people who build trading tech right now have never traded in their life. And I always found that interesting. Like, why are you in this business?
Really? That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, dude, the biggest name in charting, right? I won't name names here, but you can guess, right? None of the 3 founders have ever traded. They told me, like, I know that because they told me. And I was like, really? Like, what brought you into this field? And, it's this long story about like trying to start a social network that led them into that. So it's fascinating, but like, we built this because we wanted it ourselves.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic, and get huge success. So congrats. Anything else you want to say before we tie this up for the night?
No, I think Jack has a coupon. So I think somebody from the team's been posting in the chat. If anyone wants to try it, that coupon is a good deal. If you need more than 7 days to try it out, just ask. We always say yes. A lot of people are like, 7 days isn't enough for me. The answer is an automatic yes if you just ask the support guys for it.
Sure.
And I hope you guys like the product. And please, if you do play with it, tell me what you think.
Fantastic. Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming on today. I really do appreciate that. I will post, I'm sure you'll post the links to this too, if anybody wants to get, the replay of this. And again, thank you so much. And I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.